All right, welcome back to the District 2 Sports Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest joining us today, a man with playing experience at both the college and NFL level, over 30 years of coaching experience at both the college and NFL levels as well, including stops as a head coach with the Richmond Spiders, where he won a national championship, the Virginia Cavaliers, where he was the 2011 ACC Coach of the Year, Howard Bison, and currently the head coach of the William and Mary Tribe, Coach Mike London. Coach, how are we doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. And Coach, I just got to forewarn you. Our rivalry goes a little deep. Me and Big Greg, we're UNC guys, so we got the South's oldest rivalry there. Gregory, he's a little off the beaten path. He's a Florida fan, so he stays out of it a little bit. But just wanted to give you a warning.
I got you. Got you.
Well, Coach, I'm going to start off. I like to give our fans a little bit of background on yourself. So I know you were born in West Point, New York, but you moved to the Hampton area and played your high school ball at Bethel. Um, I just want to know how did Coach Mike London get into football? I mean, you had obviously a successful career, but how did you get started?
Yeah, I remember I got married young in college as what happens, life happens, and I signed a contract with the Dallas Cowboys at that time, and that's when I told my guys that I think Tom Landry was the head coach. They're like, who? I'm like, Tom Landry. They're like, so it's like it's dated a little bit, but at the same time, it's awesome to sign a contract with him. And then, as fate has it, sometimes, I played through a couple college injuries there and thought everything was good. And their doctors did a, kind of an exam, medical exam, say, hey, you got some loose cartilage, torn cartilage in your knee. We're gonna have to do an operation, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh man, I'm trying to make the team. And so end up getting let go because of the injury that I thought was okay because I played, I played on it in college. And I remember it's one of those things that sometimes we grow up as youngsters and our self-identity is being playing in the league. I want to go to the league. And I remember that period of time being a guy that was married in college with a kid, hoping that the NFL was going to be the thing that would get me back and bring my family on, all of a sudden taken away from you. You spend that short moment of just like, man, what am I going to do? What am I worth? So fortunately, my father had been in the military, Air Force, and we've lived in Libya, Africa, Wiesbaden, Germany, California, Hawaii, all over the world. And he was in uniform. And I just remember, I was like, if I can't play football, it's in the back of my mind, it was like, I think I want to do something with like the FBI, Secret Service, something like that. And so I ended up getting let go. And then, as fate would have it, kind of going through the aspects of I worked for the Boys and Girls Club for a short minute up in Richmond, but then that calling to be in uniform was like, I want to do this. And so I became a police officer in the city of Richmond, and I worked some undercover stuff. Man, I've seen the worst of what people do to each other. What comes out of your mouth matters. And that's kind of how over the years, go to class, show class, treat people with dignity and respect has become my mission statement for the programs. Everyone I've been at, Richmond, UVA, Howard, now here. And to treat people with dignity and respect came out of being a police officer because there's people that live in all over. And there may be people living in, areas where there is high crime. And it's not that person that's a bad person. It's people that are in there that do dumb stuff that are bad people. And not to associate everybody with bad because you go into, a neighborhood that's challenged. So I became a police officer. And man, I was like the undercover stuff back in the day. You guys would get this, but probably the listening audience won't. Man, I did undercover stuff. Like I had like an afro, like Michael Jackson. I had puka shells. I got my dad's dog tags on now, but I had the chain on that you had all the stuff on it, and platform shoes. It was just like,
Nice, nice.
so I was doing that a little bit, and then again, there's some really serious situations that that occurred out of being that, being undercover, working interdiction with the FBI, Secret Service, local law enforcement, Henrico, all over. And I remember one night fighting with a guy. He robbed the store, fighting with this guy, and he pulls the gun out and he pulls the trigger and it goes click. By the grace of God, it doesn't go off. And so I'm still here, talking to you guys. And it's one of those things that for a moment, man, your life, like it just flashes before your eyes. And so, and then, make a long story short, the people that worked at the store that they worked at, because they said, we know where you live, they didn't want to, they didn't want to testify against them. So the only charge they had was attempted capital murder on a police officer. But as they were getting away, they ditched the gun. So no one wanted to say anything about the robbery. The gun that went off in front of me, they ditched it. So the only thing they charged with was them trying to run me over with a car. And I was like, I'm not feeling this right now, man, because it was just one of those things. It was a life-changing moment. And that's how I got into coaching, at the University of Richmond, where I was, Doubt Shealy, Jim Marshall were there and started me out there as a, quality control guy. And then from there, just kind of moved on. But that was kind of the impetus of that night in Richmond, Southside, Virginia. One night, just I guess God said, "Man, hey, I got other plans for you here." So that's what happened, and that's now, like you said, like 30 something years later, I lost the afro in the Michael Jackson deal, but I've been doing this, now for a long time, and I've been blessed with assistant coaches positions, head coaching positions, winning championships, tough moments, great moments, all those things. And so that's kind of how the path, kind of got started with the coaching part of it.
Coach, I know we want to know much more about the past and everything, but I'm gonna cut in real quick because I had two questions that basically date back to your days on the force, and just kind of curious, was there anything that you were able to take from the force to coaching? And the other thing was, I don't know if you were able to make any, some people have these wild stories where they met somebody in the streets where they were able to bring them on or kind of lead them to college or what have you. So I was just kind of curious if it was one of those rags to riches kind of stories there as well.
Well, I mean, so going back to like what comes out of your mouth matters, and how you treat people matters. And you just can't automatically assume because somebody comes from a low income or high income area that they're a certain way. There's some things that they've been impacted by. And I remember I also did the PAL, which is the Police Athletic League, and George Wythe High School was on the south side right there. So in uniform, I'd go, there was a like local gym, and I'd go with other officers, and we'd teach, like, we'd coach basketball, we'd do different things. And so sometimes we go with our uniforms on, and other times we go in, regular plain clothes, because what I wanted to see them to see me as not just a police officer, but when I wore, like, blue jeans or shorts and t-shirt and was shooting baskets with them, I'm a regular guy, just like they are. And so sometimes people get caught up in just seeing the uniform and not seeing the person. So that was part of the thing of saying, listen, I want to be able to give back, use athletics as a background, but also reach out and try to coach and teach somebody about, you too can achieve. And I remember the second part of your question. So when I got hired by Richmond, and I was walking in one of the malls off of Chippenham Parkway, whatever. And let me go back. So my partner and I were called like Batman and Robin. So we worked the high crime areas and, in different areas. So we were called Batman and Robin. And it was one of those things where we'd be fight. I mean, we'd go through some things. And I remember one night, shots were fired. My partner and I were in, in it was North Side, one of the areas in North Side. And we see guys on the side of the, on the street, under the street light. So we get out of the car. I'm running after a guy, and I'm running and can't find him. But lo and behold, this is where the dignity and respect thing came from. 2 weeks prior, a lady had her air condition pushed in, guy climbed through the window and took her TV. So uniformed police gets there and they're taking the report, and I'm watching the officer. He's like, "Do you got a receipt for the police for the TV? Why would you stick an air conditioner on the first unit?" And I'm seeing this guy talk to this lady like she's, what are you, an idiot? And the thought process of apathy and treating people with dignity and respect just kept resurfacing. So the police officer takes the report, he leaves, uniform guy. I approached the lady, I was in plain clothes, Miss Johnson. Hey, listen, I know that you paid for this TV, hardworking, money, and all those things like that through pawn shops or whatever. Is going to try to find your TV. Thank you, thank you, officer. Thank you, detective. So fast forward to that event, I jump out of the car, chasing after these guys. And we're going, we're jumping over, man. It looks like whether you're jumping over cars and, getting all that kind of stuff. I come around the corner and the guy's gone. It's like midnight. Lo and behold, sitting on the back step with a light shining was that lady rocking back and forth like this, just outside. She might have been spitting her spittoon. She might have been chewing tobacco. I don't know, man. But she was just outside in the back. And then all of a sudden, she looks at me and I look at her, because then we recognize each other. And then she goes, the guy had hid himself behind some trash cans in and around that area. And of course, I throw the trash cans off. There's a guy, we arrest him. My point goes, if I had been non-empathetic a week prior with the officer, then I would have came around the corner and who knows, I wouldn't have caught him. Maybe the guy was waiting to do harm to me, whatever like that. So it's like, there's like, treat people with dignity and respect came out of that, because that interaction with somebody, you never know. And then the last thing I said, because that was a great question. I remember walking in the mall one time with my kids, and so I'm walking. I don't have the weapon on anymore because I'm good now. I'm busting my jersey and stuff like that. And this guy says behind me says, "Hey, Batman." I'm like, "Oh man," because if I had treated that dude wrong or something, and I had my kids, I had no way to defend them or myself. I was like, I hope I treated this guy with dignity and respect, because if I arrested him, whatever. But anyway, "Hey, Batman, wait up." So I was like, "All right, Lord, here you go. We get ready to get into it." So he said, "I just wanted to tell you, man, I appreciate what you did." Like you were kind of saying, appreciate what you did. The police athletic stuff, help me, change my life and things like that. So I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, man." We gave the secret handshake. Okay, let's go, kids. We're back in the car. I'm getting out of this mall. But it was one of those things that what you do, it matters. What you say, it matters. How you act, how you react to all the things that matter. We are all free to choose the choices that we make, but we are not free to choose the consequences of the choices that we make. And so I just remember all those things, and being an officer, like my father being in the military, just all those things come to play to where it helps shape these 30-something years of coaching now, So that was a great question. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm gonna go one more step further. I know Gregory wants to get into the nuts and bolts of everything, but I've heard you say the Lord, and I've heard you say dignity and respect and stuff like that. And I'm just gonna go ahead and ask you, how much does your faith play in your day-to-day life?
Wow, man. Very much so.
I ask you that because it plays every day in my life now, and you got me by a couple years. I know we hadn't talked age. I'll be 58 in June, but I know in the last
Denzel 45, man.
yeah, there you go, there you go.
Give my money, Jake. Jake, give my money. Yeah, yeah.
So
Training day. Yeah.
I'm just I just look at things a lot differently in the last 5 to 10 years, and I played that game where hey, I need you now, and then hey, the time passes, but now I know I need him all day and every day, so that's just something that plays a big part in my life.
Yeah. Well, when I was assistant coach at Boston College, Tom O'Brien was the head coach. Then Tom was at UVA for a long time. He recruited my brother Paul from Bethel to UVA, and then over the years, then he moved on, got a head job there. And I remember my daughter got sick we were in a bowl game, and she got sick, didn't know what it was, thought it was a cold. So we ended up taking her to the Children's Hospital in Boston. And they said, Coach, your daughter has a rare disease called Fanconi anemia, which is your body's inability to fight off infections with their white blood cells. She's going to need a bone marrow transplant. And like, when you're a young parent, you're like, all right, how much one of them costs? You're like, nah, it doesn't work that way. You got to join a National Bone Marrow Registry. We have to test people to make sure that their blood types and things like that match. And there's several properties in your blood that needs to match. So you're gonna have to join the registry. And then they said, but the odds of a parent being a match for their own child are like 10,000 to 1. It'd be a miracle. So we get the family to register. We get my brothers, sisters, other coaches. We get in the National Bone Marrow Registry, and can't find a match. So then at that time, Al Groh just became the head coach at Virginia, and my wife is from Newport News, and we went to Boston for 5 years. She was like, dude, you got to get me back towards home. April 1st, when there's a 26-inch blizzard, I'm not feeling that. But anyway, so Coach Groh had taken the Virginia job, and so we said we're leaving, coming back home from Hampton. She's from Newport News. Can't find a match. And then finally, the doctors at Johns Hopkins said, you know what, Mr. London, let's try you. Let's try you. But again, like I said, the odds of finding a match, from a parent it's rare, very rare. We've joined the National Bone Marrow Registry. We've doing all these things. And then I'll never forget, I got a call. My wife got a call and said, we need to see you and your wife right away up here at Johns Hopkins. Because we'd moved to Charlottesville at that time. We get there and the doctor's like, Mr. London, he said, you're the match. You're the perfect match. After being told 10,000 to 1 odds and a miracle that a parent can be a match, and then I'm sitting there in Johns Hopkins Hospital with a doctor in oncology saying, you're the perfect match. And then we have the procedure. The procedure goes well. And I'll just fast forward, fellas. She's now the head athletic trainer at Heritage High School in Newport News. And it's like, the doctor's like, sometimes doctors don't want to tell you, oh, that was extraordinary. That was very rare. And finally, the doctor said, man, that's a miracle, pretty close to a miracle. And so when I talk about faith, family, and football, and I talk about people like my father, Wilson London, who's no longer with us, he passed March 1st, 2 years ago. So I wear his dog tags along with my brother, Gary, who went to Bethel, East Carolina. My brother, Paul, he went to Bethel, UVA. He had some dog tags. We all split up a dog tag and put it around our neck to remind us of who we are and where we came from. To remind us that family will always matter. To remind us that what comes out of your mouth will always matter. How you treat people with dignity and respect matters. And so I'll go into this last story. I know we might be on a time limit here, fellas, but anyway, we were playing in Hawaii. He was my coach, Little League coach. And there's a guy, Timmy, on the sidelines. And Timmy, he was a terrible player. But, on military bases, you couldn't go off base. You stayed on base and you played the different sports. He was my basketball and football coach. Anyway, after kickoff, Timmy would run out to go grab the tee and then run back to the sideline. And so I'd watch my dad from, like the 50-yard line or whatever. I'm looking at him and he's running down the sideline and he's getting up to Timmy. And he said, hey, Timmy, that was great. You might be the fastest guy on the team. Keep it up, man. We need you. And I'm saying to myself with the other player, like, he stinks as a player. What are you doing? But what I saw was he was valuing what Timmy did. He was affirming him. He was appreciating him. He was saying that you have a role and a spot on this team. And so, Timmy's like, now he didn't say you're the fastest running back, because that wouldn't have been true. But he was talking about the stuff that he did. And so during the game, like, Timmy's on the sideline, like rocking back and forth, like, dude, what's wrong with you? He was waiting for the next kickoff. He was waiting for the next kickoff so he can go run, get the tee, and go do his part. He was the guy that was on the sideline cheering the other players on, offense, defense, and stuff like that. So everybody has a role on the team. We know there's the stars, there's the guys that are gifted, the 4 stars and all that. But then even the trainer, the whoever it may be. When we won the championship, CA championship in 22, we got the filmers, the equipment people, the trainers, everybody got a ring. Not just the team guys, but everybody got a ring. And I remember that because it was like we only react to things sometimes. It was in my face my whole life growing up with him. My whole life. But then 2 years ago, I acknowledged the fact that everybody matters. I've been doing that my whole coaching career anyway, because the relationships matter to me. But when someone said at his services, this is what your dad meant, I said, man, I got it. It's like that FedEx moment where you see FedEx and you say, hey, can you see the arrow? You're like, what are you talking about? Can you see the arrow?
Yeah.
FedEx. Look between the E and the X. And then you're like, oh, okay, I got it. And then you'll never look at the FedEx sign the same because you'll go right immediately to the arrow because you know that aha moment that you got was brought to you. It's the same thing in coaching and teaching. Sometimes kids don't get it right then, but you got to keep being persistent. Go after it. Keep talking about faith, family, football. Go to class, show class, treat people with dignity and respect. So what? Now what? Things happen to you. What are you going to do about it? In this profession,
Absolutely.
you have great times, and you got to separate from some places that you're at. But it's how you leave. And so the so what now what has become part of it as well because we just live in a society in a world that that they don't like tone and civility. The left will use a Bible to talk about all the good things. The right will use the same Bible to talk about all the good things, but neither one of us are talking about the things that we need to be doing. So that it's become kind of so the faith element of it is huge because of the life stories. Gun didn't go off. You're the match to your daughter. Just seeing all the different things that have happened over the course of my career. Being around men like Freddie Mitchell was my first head coach at Tab High School. And Coach Dal Shealy was a guy that got me to go to FCA camps that had the pros used to go to FCA camps too. So you'd be in there walking around with NFL guys also, so again, another long answer to your question, but grounded on those principles, but with life incidences that have occurred that says, man, never let man put a period where God puts a comma.
Amen.
And then I flip it and I say, never let man put a comma where God puts a period, says that's it. You won't harm him.
Right.
This will not go any further. So I talk to my players all the time about, man, so many things, broken homes, dreams shattered, addictions that family members may have, relationships, and we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Players not perfect. I wish I had 105 guys that are perfect, but we're not. It's always ongoing. What I think is what we need to have here, and they're no longer with the team, and so it's just one of those things that your life opportunities, who you've been around and influenced.
Well, I'm a firm believer that especially today, which is everybody knows is Good Friday, and we got a very special event coming up on Sunday, which would be Easter, and somebody needed to hear that message, and it's just wild how God works in mysterious ways. We talk about sports 99.9% of the time on this podcast, and it's just unbelievable how that message has just come across. And listen, the other thing I wanted to tell you was if there's a training day 2 that comes out, you've got to be Alonzo Jr. We got to figure this out because I couldn't stand it when he got killed at the end of 1. There's got to be a way to incorporate this. So he was my guy.
No, yeah, I Denzel now. I think Denzel's a preacher now, but again, he was acting and the police officers. And I wasn't like Alonzo. Alonzo was a crooked cop. I was a good guy from that standpoint. Some of the stories that I told you, but Yeah, and I'll tell you another quick thing. So you probably the Greg and Dev, they have no idea about what I'm getting ready to say. We won a game like back in 22, and I come in the locker room. I was like, "Hey, fellas, man, that was great. That was dynamite." And the players are looking at me like, "What?" So the more I kept talking, dynamite, JJ, good times, and the more I kept talking, the more they're like, Coach, what are you talking about? JJ, good times, dynamite. So I went back to that was lit, man. That was lit, man. That was yeah, so I had to go back to their vernacular. But yeah, I got to catch myself every once in a while to make sure that the message gets across, to the guys,
Well,
So anyway.
well, while you're on that subject, Devin, Gregory, do you actually know what he's talking about?
Oh
No, go
yeah,
ahead and say it, man.
yeah, definitely.
I've
Come
watched
on,
that
Greg.
show probably 100 times.
I
You
watch
know
that show every day.
you know what they're doing right now? They're Googling good times right now so they can see JJ, Jimmy Walker,
Yeah,
and say dynamite.
yeah, Dynamite, yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
Flo and James. I forgot what his sister's name is though. A little
Florence, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, James, yeah, it's crazy, man, yeah.
it's awesome.
But it's awesome, and I'm learning them too. I play, the edited version of a lot of things because again, the words that come out of somebody's mouth, it's important, and so if I'm gonna play it out in front of everybody, I'll cut those words out, and I get it. We'll play instrumentals versions of it, but it's been really neat just over the years of the decades of in the 2000, back in the 90s with the Boston College thing, and then the Virginia early years with Coach Groh, and then coming back and being the head coach of Richmond with the championship, and then UVA with the ACC. I think, yeah, 2011 ACC coach year, and then Howard, where the biggest upset in the point spread upset in college football history was us against UNLV. That was crazy. And then to come here, you know, Coach Laycock is in the Virginia Hall of Fame. He's getting ready to get honored and inducted into the Women's Football Hall of Fame as well. To win a championship here, to have a 2011 was one of the best records ever in the history of the program. So I just feel honored and blessed to have had the opportunity to be at different places, do well, and sometimes in this profession, you got to deal with the highs and the lows of it, but leave in a way that I hope I'm still respected at all the places that I've been at. I still have a lot of players that call, and the Chris Longs of the world, Chris Canties, Lawrence Sidbury from back in the Richmond days. I can just go on and on. On my staff right now, I got Daryl Blastock played at Virginia. Rosside Dowling, played for me at Virginia as well as Coach Groh. Keenan Carter, my D-line coach, that was with me. I coached him at Virginia. Perry Jones was a running back. So it's like, and they're good men and they're good coaches. Brian Randall, because I can say this now, I'm no longer with Virginia. I can say Brian Randall's a good guy. Yes, he went to Virginia Tech. Okay, so but he's a lot of good coaches and good people. So that's how you try to build things that can sustain itself.
Coach, I'm gonna skip ahead just a hair, but I'm gonna come back to that UNLV game just a short bit. But I just want to ask you about that 2008 year. I mean, I guess you were tested a little bit at the beginning, going 4-3, but like you said, you wind up winning the national championship, and you're the FCS Coach of the Year. You're National Coach of the Year, BCA. I mean, after 2008, you got this thing wrapped. I mean, you got it knocked. There's no, you don't have to worry about anything else the rest of your life, do you? I mean, coaching is just easy come, easy go, I guess, right?
No, I mean it's you can't let the highs get you too high and not let the lows get you too low. And you can't let your self identity be wrapped up in the accolades and things like that. Because if you're a servant leader, and I give the example of if you got two glasses and you look at them, you're like, hey, most of the people, I would say, would look at your glass and say, the glass half's empty. I am an eternally optimistic guy and say, no, that glass is half filled. But what does it need, regardless? If you think it's half empty, half filled, what does it need? It needs pouring into. It needs somebody pouring into your glass. And that's the interaction that a coach would have and put it, we've done things like we have things on Tuesday, Thursdays called Real Talk. We talk about real talk, real issues. And it's important that they hear those things because you're not just a football player. And so what it needs when you're pouring into somebody's glass it could be somebody from the business school talk about entrepreneurship. It could be somebody from Title IX talk about dating relationships. It could be somebody from the wellness center talk about mental health and wellness. It could be somebody just pouring into your glass because all it needs is filling. Everybody's glass needs filling. And when you're a coach or when you guys, what you do on, from a public standpoint, when you're pouring into people, giving them information, sharing things with them about the conversations that you've had, personal experiences, and then not being afraid to talk about, again, faith, family, football. And I gave the examples of why. I don't try to evangelize people, but I talk about the importance of having, relationships with people, but also being grounded in who you believe in. And so when you tell a life stories like that, then you don't have to believe me. I'm living it right now. But Finn, fellas, this is God has been good in this career that I've had thus far, and the places that I've been, and the opportunities. I spent a year in the NFL with the Houston Texans. Don Capers was the head coach. Charlie Casserly was the general manager. And who would have known that through those years back in 2005, having seen Charlie Casserly with the now the Commanders, but the professional relationship from the 2005 Houston Texans, how it went into my coaching college career. I know that guy. I know that search firm. I know the guy in the search firm that's leading that. It's amazing how, the network of people, if you decide to say, let me sit and talk with this guy. Let me break bread with this guy. Let me hear what he's got to say. It's amazing. So I know, and you know that, Coach. I mean, I know you guys know that, spend time with people, invest time with them, be a servant leader, and don't worry about I guess the thing is, don't worry about who's going to pour into your glass, because when you're looking for somebody to pour into your glass, you may miss your blessing. Just keep pouring into other people's glasses. Yours will come. In this profession, sometimes we want to show everybody what we're doing. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then we turn around and like, who's going to look into my glass and pour my glass? Well, you miss that opportunity because you're worried about who's looking at what you do. So just be an out front leader. Just keep coaching, teaching, trying to be the model of what a good husband, father, teacher, coach, friend, son, uncle, all those things, but that's like I said, very, very grateful. A lot of great people in my coaching career. I'm a Tony Dungy guy. Al Groh gave me a shot when I was at Virginia. I was a camp director. I was the recruiting coordinator. I was the defensive coordinator, all those things, Tom O'Brien, Dal Shealy, Jim Reed was on my staff at UVA, but he was also the head coach at Richmond when I was an assistant. I love him. I love Coach Reed, Jeff Hansen, just guys over the years that you've interacted with. It's important to stay connected.
Well, Coach, I wanted to mention your time there at William & Mary getting hired there. Like you said, that the tribe had only known Jim Laycock for, since 1980. It's the only coach they've had since then. And you come in there, they had 3 losing seasons in a row. And what attracted you to that job? And then also, how were you able to turn it around? Because you've had 4 consecutive winning seasons there last 4 years. So how'd you were able to turn around so quickly?
Well, first of all, this was my first full-time job. Like when I was leaving the police department, I spent a brief stint at Virginia State with Lou Anderson. God rest his soul. He passed not too long ago. And Coach Laycock knew other people that knew me. And, Coach Groh was, when I was in Virginia, all these other places as a coach and player was was instrumental. But at the same time, Coach Laycock was like, you know what? Okay, you're from down around this area. Went to Hampton High School. Hampton High School, that's Dennis Kozlowski. That's Bethel High School is Dennis Kozlowski. Hampton High School is Mike Smith, who, by the way, is going into the Hall of Fame as well. So you get to know those guys, Tommy Riemann, all those guys like that. And so my first full-time job, Coach Laycock hires me, and it was kind of surreal because young guy, close to home. I met my now wife, Regina. She worked at a bank that's right up the road right here. Quick story. So I was going recruiting, and she was a bank, worked at a bank, and I had my recruiting check. There's maybe 10 grand on or something like that. I was going out recruiting for the month. Now back that time for the month, but I drive up to the plate glass window. There's two ladies there. And I drive up, I put my sign the check and put my ID card in and send it through. And then over the loudspeaker, the branch manager's like, you're a handsome young man. She's looking at the 10 grand. And I'm like, so she's like, I got two, like Greg, if you and Devin were in the plate glass window, there's I got two beautiful women right here. And I'm like, yo, you're saying over the loudspeaker, and people in line behind me are like, honk, honk, pick number 2, pick number. So, so I cash a check. The check comes to me. She had put the cell numbers of both people on the receipt. So, I'm like, man, I don't need I'm good. I don't need nobody to be dating.
You didn't have to work for those.
Hey, so yeah, but I drive off and pull over in the side lot right there, just start trying to call numbers. I was going to at least wait until later on that night. But the first number I called was my wife, Regina, and that's how I met her, man, was at a bank that's not far from the stadium here. And we've been doing this, for a while now. But man, I forgot about your question. You just asked me a question and you said
very good. You're fine. I was saying that how were you able to turn around that
okay,
program?
Yeah. My bad. Okay, my bad.
Fine.
So I've always been a relational guy. People don't care about what till they know about how much you care. You hire people that that can do the same thing, that talk about role modeling, what a husband, a mentor, all that stuff looks like. I'm highly energetic, as you guys know, and you just bring that energy, and you want to associate yourself with like-minded people, and that's how it started. Show people that you care about them. Show up at acknowledge them on their birthdays, bring them over to your house and have dinner with your family. Every Sunday we'd have dinners with our families. And so the players would see the coaches, kids run up, hey, daddy, jump up in their lap. Dad's over in the corner changing a diaper, or what do you need, honey? So what you saw was not just a football part of just, hey, don't get reached, squeeze a down block. You also saw your coach being a husband and a father and a different side of him, so that's the kind of stuff that started, and that started to resonate, and how this thing's got started. And so then when you recruit the kid, but also his parents that say, you know what, I have a baton in my office, and it symbolizes your parents are running a race, but what got you here can't get you there. Eventually, they're going to have to hand the baton off to someone. And so when you talk about all those things that you can do, or being relationship oriented, and then being ready to take the baton from them and then go do your part, Procter & Gamble, U.S. Army, Navy, whatever it is like that, CEO, entrepreneurs, whatever it is. And then when they're done, you hand it off to someone else, and then you join their parents in the infield and watch somebody else run their lap. It's called life, basically. So when you're willing to accept or do your part to help grow other young men up, and try to surround them with other good people, keep the atmosphere positive. I don't need no negative vampires. I'm a John Gordon energy bus guy. If you never read that or heard that about that book, go read that. It talks about just what you say, what you do, how you act, and how you react. Critically important, because you demonstrate that. there could be a negative leader. You could be a negative leader, right? But I just choose not to have energy vampires that suck up all the air out about while we're trying to do things. And so that's kind of how this all started. You get good players. I pray to God. So the portal is still open right now, and that's a whole different topic and thing. This past season, a guy like Charles Grant, who might be a first day draft pick, decided to stay FCS All-American, going to get a degree from William Mary. You look over my shoulders, you see the kind of guys from Joe Brady to Tomlin to McDermott, Ivan Fears, Mark Duffner. When I was here as coaching, Dan Quinn was my assistant D-line coach. Now Dan Quinn is now the head coach of the Commanders. Brian Dable coached here as well. He's coaching the Giants. I've never seen a school this size have such an affinity or relationship with a bunch of guys that are associated with the NFL. And I'm just not talking about coaches. I'm talking about like general managers, scouts, and all that. It's crazy about the people that have been here. Marv Levy coached here. Lou Holtz coached here. And so, and then the graduation rates are high as any school in the country. The winning has helped a lot as well. But so you just hope that culture that we have, people want to gravitate to that, because now the people think the culture in terms of the portal, that the grass is greener on the other side. The problem is the grass on the other side needs mowing as well. And so kids don't get their NIL. Their relationship with the coach, the assistant coach, stinks. And so all of a sudden there's a bunch of kids in the portal. And again, we can't match dollar for dollar here, but we can match relationships and say there is a pathway to the league, or a pathway to being a business owner or a CEO or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is, because there's plethora of people that are doing that now. And it goes back to the networking again, that are doing that. So that's been kind of the calling card right now. You got to be where your feet are. And that's be planted firmly and believe in what you're doing, and not looking over your shoulder. When can I get the next job? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Again, it goes back to, you want your blessing. You keep looking to see who's going to bless you. Keep blessing other people. Yours may come. It will come, And so I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm sorry for rambling on and stuff like that, but that's kind of the deal.
Coach, I'm all right. Oh, go ahead, Gary.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you about your culture there. I mean, because it seems like it's working, because you're getting wins, you're winning ball games, but also you mentioned Charles Grant and Jalen Jones, who both are All-Americans, and they stuck around the program. So I know a lot of programs are looking over their shoulder, like you just mentioned, at that transfer portal. So do you feel like your culture and the thing you've brought there for these kids have kept them around this whole time?
Well, like I said, I mean, obviously there's some situations you can't match dollar for dollar, because there's crazy money that's out there. I know the House settlement is going to be making, their final deal here pretty soon, but what we talk about is just the other things of being a graduate and the network of people and the coaches. And I think now in the coaching profession, fellas, to tell you the truth, is if a coach can get you to say yes. Now that's the high school kid, and now that's the portal young man. But it goes back to the relationship, because Devin, if you and I had a bad relationship and I was your position coach, then when you went to the cafeteria and the eggs were cold, you're like, the eggs are cold. I hate it here. Then you go to the library, try to order a book. You don't have the book. I hate it here. But Greg, if you and I had a really good relationship, all right, then you go to the cafeteria and the eggs are cold. I'm taking eggs. I'm putting them in the microwave. Beep, they're hot. You go to the library, you order a book. They don't have the book. You order the book and it gets there in 2 days. You're good. So it goes back to, man, if it's bad from the interaction, from the people that are surrounding you and coaching and teach you, when you walk away from the building, it's going to be bad anywhere else. I can never find a parking space around here. And there's like 4 on the other side of the aisle. You just decide that right in front of you, I can never find a parking space. So it's critically important now that we talk about culture and people, about having people that can say, a coach that kids can say yes to, about keeping them there. Because you can have a good relationship, but you keep them there with the interaction and servicing the needs that they have, like the Real Talk Tuesday, Thursdays. How do you do tough interviews? Bring on the different speakers. And then can you develop them? So, fellas, when you got a guy like Rosside Down, who's the second round pick for the New England Patriots, Daryl Blastock, who played 7 years in the NFL, that's as good as any staff there is in the country that has the demonstrated performance of playing at the next level. I coach at the next level. Coach Carter has done it. Brian Randall, my new quarterbacks coach. So you keep just trying to create the niche that you have, and then what's that? It was a movie. It was an athletic movie. He would say, "If you build it, they will come." I forgot.
Field of Dreams.
There it is, Field of Dreams. So if you build what you have and not worry about like everybody else getting 20, 30 guys from the portal, because you get 20 guys come to your team. Well, guess what? I've talked to so many coaches that the players are coming from other places. When they're not playing, they're fighting the coaches. They want to fight the players that are already on the team. And it's like, so how do you build a culture when you bring a whole bunch of new guys in, and then when they're not playing, they don't care about your culture, knowing the Boys and Girls Club director, where they live, their birth date, things like that. They care about playing.
Yep.
So when that's not working, I've talked to a ton of coaches right now. When that's not working, it's like you become a 1-year rental and you hope that you can win enough to then go somewhere else, because now, when those guys leave or when there's issues, man, it's just you can't deal with them.
Coach, I've got a question in here. I might have to work around it to get to it, but mentioning the portal and everything, I guess I'll ask you this, and then I'll back it up a little bit. But do you worry about becoming that stepping stone to the next level or what have you? And the reason why I ask you this is it brings back. I told you I was going to circle back to your big game there at Howard. But, I thought about Notre Dame losing to, I think it was Northern Illinois this past year. I think about Appalachian State going up to the Big House and losing to Michigan. And then, when you start talking about these games, all of a sudden this year, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I did not realize that y'all's game is considered the biggest game or the biggest win against, I guess, what they call the spread. Yeah. A 45-point dog, and you pull out the victory. So I guess going back into that initial question, do you worry about becoming that stepping stone now? And do you see that possibly those kind of games, those upsets are going to go out the window now with these kids moving on and leaving, FCS or D2 or what have you program? I'm not going to say depleted, but on a different level now.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say this, and it's coming from the faith perspective, nothing is impossible. I remember when I was at Howard, we had a shirt called Mission Possible. And so what's going to happen is going to happen. We try to talk about controlling the controllables. Like I said, sometimes you just can't match. I mean, kids, because it's generational wealth. I mean, that's the kind of money that they're throwing out there. But you try to create a sense of the family, the legacies that have been here, the opportunities that can still get you to the league or still get you in the boardroom door or wherever it may be. And then I think if you look at it, the news reports the guys like the Tennessee quarterback that wanted $4 million. He was getting he wanted. He's at 2, and he wanted 4 Tennessee, and then he left. When you think he's going to UCLA or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you go back, you look at the percentages of what was being paid out. Those are players. Some players are outliers, or they're out there like that. But the percentages are lower than that. And then if you can create a situation to where some schools are doing the cost of attendance, some schools are doing things. Our situation is. We try to fundraise to make sure that the needs of keeping the lights on and traveling, all that stuff is going well. But we also have an entity called 1693, which basically is tied into the players doing community service. So then there's still an act of service that's tied to doing something that perhaps if it led to some sort of numeration for them, then it occurs. but we can't go matching other people's what they want to pay out. So still trying to keep the environment of, go to class, show class, treat people with dignity and respect, faith, family, football. You know, Rosside Dowling does my community service. We go to, man, we food drives. We had a bone marrow drive for my daughter, for my daughter and I. We've set up a foundation called Tomorrow's Kids, which now basically every speaking engagement I go to, I get checks written to that, and then turn around and then service how to try to help other schools or hospitals doing bone marrow drives. Families that go away and need a place to stay. They need a place for their pet to stay. So there's all different kind of things. But I'm just saying, I can only create the culture that we have with good coaches if it's good enough for a family member and a coach to say, I want my kid to stay here, then that's one thing. What's happening now is they're finding out to say, let's just give an example. All right. So Greg, give an example that there's a school, you're on the East Coast, and the school sees that you're playing well, they're on the West Coast. They find out about maybe perhaps there's a relative that might need dialysis or needs medication. So what they do is say, hey, we're going to give you this money to buy your mom's medication or help in dialysis, but you got to come out here and play. So who would want to do that, for a family member? So you leave and you go out west. Now that you're out west and perhaps you're not playing, but the money's being, spent on the services for your mom, you're away from your family, your culture, the people that you know. Life stinks now out on the west because you left everything back here, but because you are a son, I'm going to take care of my mother, and I get it. You go out there. So that's kind of the stuff that's happening when people can find out what you need, what your family member may need, and all those things like that, and then play on the opportunity to say, we'll come out here, we'll take care of that. But then you're not playing, who you're going to turn to. I go back to the relationship with the coach. You don't have that relationship with them because they got 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 guys just like you that they brought in. And if one of you or three of you or four of you aren't playing, all right, we'll take the other 8 that are here that we brought. So yeah, it's we can only create the culture that we can to keep the kids here. And like I said, world-class degree and an opportunity to still chase NFL. I mean, it's crazy, but at the same time, that's what's working.
And I'm going to tell these two boys something real quick, Coach. I didn't mean to step in. I'm a George Washington High School graduate. Didn't play football, so they played the Crabbers for some state titles there during the 80s. But talking about William and Mary, we had a really good friend of mine. His name was David Cumbo, and he was on, I'm going to say, I graduated 85. I'm going to say he was on the 84 through 88 teams as an offensive lineman. And I can tell these guys right now that his degree from William and Mary has allowed him to become the plant manager at Goodyear Tire and Rubber there in Danville. So I just want to let you know, I was just trying to let them know that degree is well looked at and it's well sought as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My whole coaching career, as I go back, University of Richmond, UVA, Howard, here. That's all I know, fellas. That's all I know is about extending the opportunities for someone to learn and become a productive citizen in the 21st century. Now with AI and just the state of what's going on in our economy, being smart and being educated, it's critically important right now. So, but I'm thankful of the affiliation with those schools.
Coach, last one for me. I want to talk about last year. You go 7-5. Kind of looking at the stats here. You outscored your opponents, had more first downs, more rushing yards, more total offense, more time of possession. The only thing I saw was that you lost 5 more fumbles than your opponent did. I don't know if that was just the key there, in those 5 losses, but also looking towards next year. What all do you have coming back, and do you think you can replicate what you're able to do last year, or if even do better?
Yeah, the game, and I learned this from Dom Capers. I learned it from Al Groh, Jim Reed, all the coaches. So it's critical that the end of half, end of game scenarios that sometimes we don't practice. We practice 9-on-7, let's go. 7-on-7, let's go. But practicing those end of game, end of half situations is critical. And for us, one of the elements that made itself clear was like the post snap penalties, doing dumb stuff. I mean, I get it. If there's a DB, a stop and go route, and you commit, on the stop route, and the receiver turns, well, and you grab him, because if you don't, then they're going to score a touchdown. So you intentionally create a penalty situation because you don't want the score to be. But when you do stuff that's post snap, the pushing and stuff that goes on and that stuff like that, there were two games that third down situations that we're off the field if we do what we're supposed to do, and we did not, and end up extending the drives for the other team. They score, so we lose those games. So just being critically, me doing a better job as a coach, and our coaches and the players understanding that post snap penalties, those things are controllable, and if you limit those, then you give yourself a chance to stay on an extended drive or to end the drive of the other team by not retaliating back. And so, the new rules that are, the new rules that we're talking about, college football, guys that are faking injuries, all those things like that, they're going to come into play. And we got to be smart, focused. Tough doesn't always mean you're like smashing somebody in the face. Tough means being tough-minded, that if something happens to you, understand that there's officials, there's people out there, and your response could be an issue that could cause us to lose, or cause us to win because you refrain from retaliating. So again, it's just a mindset. You can be tough, but we got to be smart as well.
Coach, he stole that question from me, by the way. I just wanted to let you know that he knows I'm the stat nerd and stuff. So I'm not even going to pretend like I know this roster this year. But, I guess I'm the doom and gloom kind of guy. So I guess I'll go back to 2024 and try to draw some conclusions. I did notice one thing you just said, though, that your scores, or your scoring per at the end of the half, end of the second quarter, and at the end of the games, I guess you probably already knew this, that you were outscoring your opponents pretty hefty. Is that a thing where you just trying to bury them, get them out of the way, kind of put the game out of hand, or maybe get that extra possession to start the third quarter?
Yeah, it's a great question. Through the course of the year, like typically it's been, we're gonna defer automatically. I want the ball because all right, if it's the first possession, I want the first possession. I think, to go back to Greg's question, we did a pretty good job, but those penalties occurred in the fourth quarter for us defensively. And so now starting fast, but then maintaining over the level of the quarters that we're playing is going to be critical. So got a new offensive coordinator, like I said, Winston October, played at Richmond. He was the offensive coordinator for Richmond the last couple of years. They went back-to-back CAA titles there. So I know him well. Brian Randall's our new quarterback coach. So I think the staff that was added, because at an FCS place, coaches leave, and I've endured that over the course of time. Brendan Marion was with me at Howard and here. Now he's a head coach, out in Sacramento. Christian Taylor was with me. Now he's on the Buffalo Bills staff. Vince Brown was here with me, and he went to go be the head. So I get it, but I don't want to turn around and keep looking for who's coming, as I just want to keep pouring into the guys that are here, because the right coach will come, because the environment and culture will fit him as well. And so when you add a guy like Winston October, Brian Randall, Mike Maloney is another guy that we added as a new guy. I think we got an all-star staff. So then it goes back to the culture of things again. But like you said, the statistical battles of it, get +2, 3 in turnovers, and you got great chance to win the game. I learned a lot of that from Coach Groh and the Bill Belichick and the Bill Parcells tree that they had in terms of doing defenses and things like that, and the elements, the field position elements that were critical, the red zone elements. Obviously, we all want to make them kick field goals, not touchdowns. But there's so many different things statistically that we can do a better job of, even though we were We led some top 10 in some of the categories as a football team. But like I said, we got to do a better job working on no post snap deals and fourth quarter, being smart about that. I think we have depth. We've had the most depth on this team since I've been here. You talk about Bronson Yoder, Malachi Emo, and Hollis Mathis, who there's only 2 players in college football history that have thrown for 1,000, rushed for 1,000, and caught 1,000 yards and passes. And he is one of them at William and Mary. So we got to replace a productive guy, the kind of stuff that Holly gave us. But I like our team. We got a chance to be good this year.
Well, let me go a little step further, Coach. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at, and I did not see a William and Mary game, so I apologize for that last year. So, and I can guarantee you that I'll see a lot of them this year, one way or the other. But listen, I picture your offense as a ball control offense, and the reason why I say that is because, I mean, nothing to sneeze at. 1,966 yards passing by Darius, and then you got Bronson, who is a 1,000-yard rusher. But I just see that you guys are holding on to the ball. But I guess I want to ask you a very important question, and it pertains to 2 people. First and foremost, how important is Sean McElwain to your program? And then second of all, how much are you going to miss? And I'm pretty sure he was a senior last year, Reuben Anderson, your punter, because I see that the kid averaged over 43 yards a punt. But not only that, he has a long of 57. He had 6 touchbacks. He had 10 fair catches and then 13 inside the 20. So how important is that guy? And the reason why I ask you that is because I'm kind of that nerd. I love the kicking game. So, not only field goals, but I just think the punter is that 12th guy who is an absolute weapon at times, kind of like the Ray Guy. So, and I'm sure you know who Ray Guy is. I know these other 2 guys
they
don't.
don't. Yeah, they don't know. Yeah. No, Sean McElwain's. He can be an on-the-line guy, but he'd also create the matchups of flexing him out. And so whether you bring the safety down to guard him or you walk the outside linebacker up, the dude is like 6'5". So his reach, you don't be surprised if you see go balls where it's just if they're going man and he flexes out, then go up and get it, that type of thing. So Sean's got a chance to be really, really good from all aspects of catching, blocking, being in the backfield. The misdirections that Winston has used over the course of time, I think that's going to be critically important. And then you're right about the punting situation. We have a guy coming in that's a transfer portal guy whose mom who teaches soccer here, and to address the fact that you got to know how to project the ball down the field. If we want a pooch punt, I don't want it kicked in the end zone. I want the backspin of it. Gunners, get down there, make sure the guy fair catches it, or make sure we're in place so the ball doesn't bounce into the end zone. So we paid a lot of attention to that. The different styles that are out there. As you know, there's the rugby style. The rugby style allows them to see if you're going to come after it or whatever it might be. So we've explored that going through training camp. But definitely, I think our punter that we have kicking for us this year is always going to be an integral part of how we can go about doing. The ball's on the 30 and we're punting it. Dude, kick it all the way on the other side down there, because field position matters. Where we get it and where they get it, it matters. And so we're constantly talking about that field position battle. And you're right, the punter is critical in that.
Well, Coach, I don't know if you played the new college football game that came out last year, but I just know based on where you've coached in the past, you're just constantly hitting that the academic prestige recruiting pitch, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, the best of both worlds. I mean, that's a GSR graduation rate of 17 of the last 18 years. William Mary's been number 1 at it. So and you don't have to fake hype or do it. It's right there. And so it's now finding the player that says, I want to be affiliated with that or associated with that. Because I get it. I mean, it's a school that has academic standards, and there are enough players that are good players that can come here and do that. But I want players or people to go to schools and that where they can get opportunities to become educated and be that 21st century person as well and play ball. So our country, we're filled with people that have had opportunities like that. So I just happen to be my coaching career happens to be in institutions that have been, of academic high learning. But again, I love what I do, and it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how we can do again this year. I think we got, like I said, I think we got a good team coming back, and we're ready to go.
Well, Coach, I just got a couple more for you, and then we're going to put you on the spot a little bit with some rapid fire questions to end it, all right?
Oh man, yeah, my secretary just came in here, and here's another one now, Coach. She gave me the Showtime of Apollo hook look. Now you guys don't know what that means, right? No, you don't. Don't
I
shake
don't
your
think
head.
so.
No, yeah, no, yeah, Sandman, yeah.
That's when the
So
guy comes out there on the stage and says, "Gotta go, gotta go." That's
that's
when
right.
they stink on stage, is what it was. They come out there and pull him.
Yeah,
Well,
I got somebody else at 12 something, but anyway, she was just kind of reminding me that. But
yeah,
anyway,
you let us know when you need to get
yeah,
out, Coach. So
okay.
I'll just ask you one. So, um, we cover a lot of Southside Virginia football recruiting. We're all Danville guys, and I know you got a couple of guys coming in next year, and Caleb Martin from Magna Vista, Branson LeDuc Maddox from Smith Mountain Lake Academy. Just talk about what you see from kids coming out of this area.
Yeah, it's critically important to me to try to get the best players in the state that have an appetite and affinity towards William and Mary. It's a state that's highly recruited. We all know everybody recruits the 757 and all that stuff. But to get players from up around there like Caleb and Maddox, the guys you mentioned, they're really good, tough football players. And the messaging for them, it matched. It matched what the family wanted for them, the people that would be coaching them, the surroundings and all that stuff like that. So that's definitely going to be a huge plus for us. And then trying to get these in-state kids, I made the mistake when I got here because I'm from Hampton, Virginia, went to Tabb High School, Bethel High School. I came out with a thing called Seven Tribes, Seven Tribe Seven. And so, man, the 804 to 54, 540s and the 703s, many coaches were hot. I said, "What are you talking about, Seven Tribe Seven?" I'm like, well, theoretically, we do have a 757 area code, but I'm like the Statue of Liberty, fellas. I'll take your huddled masses. You're poor, you're tired. Give me everybody. You know what I mean? We want to go in state and do well, and we did a good job this past season going in state with some of our players. So we'll look to do that again this year.
Coach, I know Devin wants to get these rapid fires in, but I got to say
Okay.
one thing. What a family tree. Real quick, I wanted to get this in. Your son plays wide receiver for the Montreal Alouettes. Your younger brother plays at UVA. But how many coaches or how many fathers in this world can say their daughter is playing professional football?
Ah, my daughter Kristen, that's right, played basketball at the UVA for Debbie Ryan, and then overseas for a couple years. But she's playing professional women's tackle football. She's been an All-American. They've won a gold medal competing overseas. She's kind of like she's in Mississippi right now at playing. And you're right. The crazy thing is, you know. I get a call from her. It's like it's not like typical daughter sometimes or whatever. Hey, I'm thinking about this, and I'm going to do the redecorating the ceilings. My daughter, she's like, hey, Dad, when you play cover two, you get up in the face, man. You jam them with your hands. How do you like? Okay, my daughter's taught me. So, but anyway, I'm going to give her the answer because we have a women's clinic. She's awesome, man. She's awesome to have a daughter that's still playing that loves the game.
All right, Coach, we'll go ahead and put 60 seconds on the clock here. Whatever comes to your mind first here, all right? If you got
Oh
time
man!
for it.
All right, here we
All right.
go.
White cleats or black cleats?
Billy White Shoes Johnson, White
There you
Cleats.
go.
Snow or rain game?
Hey, they don't know.
No, they
Oh man!
don't.
All
They
right,
don't.
go
They
ahead. All right,
don't.
sorry. Go ahead again. Go
We'll
ahead
have to
again.
get him a dance. We'll have to get the video
Yeah.
of him dancing after the touchdown return.
Snow
Okay.
or rain game, Coach?
Snow game.
Morning or night practice?
Morning.
Offense or defense?
Ooh, defense.
Best stadium you've ever coached or played in?
FSU Stadium when I was in Virginia, we beat them.
Grass or turf?
Grass.
Gatorade or Powerade?
Drinking a Gatorade right now.
Best restaurant in Williamsburg?
Fat tuna.
Best player you've ever coached?
Woo. Chris Long.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here from Coach Mike London. Coach, I know you got a busy schedule. We just want to thank you again for taking the time out of your your busy life to meet with us today and to talk some
Anytime, man.
football and life with us.
Anytime, man. I want you guys to be successful. Maybe we could do something during the season or something like that. Just stay in contact. But I appreciate what you guys do and bringing the message to the kids, to the parents, everybody that's out there. So thank you for what you do.
We're
Hey,
not
Coach.
bashful. We're going to make it down to Williamsburg this year for a game. So
I got you. I got you. I know a guy that knows how you get tickets. I got
okay,
you.
thank you. We'll talk to him soon.
All right,
Coach, we
Coach.
appreciate it.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
fellas.
Thank
Thank
you,
you guys.
Coach.
Appreciate
Good
it.
luck.
Take care. See you.
Yes.